Hello, and welcome to A Bettor Morning, presented by Rival Fantasy. I'm Heather Klein. Rival Fantasy is the all-in-one fantasy sports platform. Let's welcome today's panel. Host of Her Story in the Making, Britt's Fantasy Blitz, and co-host of Lightning Round, Britt Flynn. Award-winning host, the fantasy exec, Corey Parson. And Coop? Is that Coop?
David did the double sunglasses. I love it.
Coupe Fiasco in the house. You know me as Coop, there it is, or America's dad. I'm now a proud papa. Congratulations, Coop. Baby Lady J, the biggest Patriot fan in the country.
And she's already rocking a super cute mohawk, too. She's cool.
Oh, my gosh. That's awesome.
That is wonderful. I see, Britt, I see you had to bring your boss to help you today, huh?
Oh, you know what, Corey? I said before the show that we were going to be on our best behavior, and you're already starting it.
The man, the myth, the legend, Matt Deutsch, co-founder of Better Sports Network. Welcome to the panel today, Matt.
Thank you. We're going to have some fun. Great time of year for sports. Happy summer, everybody. Happy Friday.
All right, let's get started. We finally had a football game, the Browns with the come-from-behind win at Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio. Although it was the first preseason game, what were the biggest takeaways that you observed? Britt, you're up first.
Well, so the one thing that I wanted to see with all the starters sitting out was how Mekhi Becton looked after the offseason hype that he had slimmed down and, was in the best shape of his life that we hear about every player every single year. But this clearly was not the case after he limped off the field early and he really wasn't seen from again. He's battling for a job in the starting lineup after missing consecutive seasons with injury, and he's definitely not making a good case if he can't stay healthy in preseason. I did also have way too much fun watching Dorian Thompson-Robinson shimmy around and shake defenders, and he did not disappoint. 8 for 11 with 82 yards and a touchdown and another 36 rushing yards. I mean, sign me up. Finally, it's really clear that the Browns have a tight three-way battle for the third running back spot between Demetric Felton, John Kelly, and Hassan Hall. They all showed positive signs and all have something to offer the team, so it's going to be really interesting to watch.
Great to have football back, and I was focusing on the quarterbacks. These are two players that I've been high on over the last 5 years. Kellen Mond, drafted by Minnesota, now with Cleveland. Of course, Zach Wilson. I was not happy with what I saw out of Mond, especially in that spot. Lots of snaps. He should have looked better. He should have looked more confident in control. He should have been able to do more. Didn't like the interception. Never really know who to blame on those. But I was not impressed with Mond. I thought with 4 years of college at a high level and an athletic, good arm and someone who could run, you're looking at the next Dak Prescott. Well, I got that one wrong. On the other hand, Zach Wilson, I thought he did look poised, comfortable, calm. Great to see him sitting next to Aaron Rodgers taking notes. If Rodgers goes down, Wilson could be a fantasy sleeper. And if you're betting the Jet futures, I would feel more comfortable with Wilson buying in as a decent backup quarterback.
Kellen Mond and Dak Prescott might be a proper comp. But with that being said, I think the thing last night that I took away from it was something that didn't happen on the field, but that happened on the sidelines. When Aaron Rodgers was mic'd up and they were interviewing him and he was talking about his relationship and his chemistry early on in camp with Garrett Wilson, comparing Garrett Wilson to Devontae Adams, and also, speaking about how he's somebody that you're going to want on your fantasy team this year. So as we head into a weekend with plenty of fantasy drafts, that's good news right there. I don't have Wilson nowhere yet, but I am going to be investing in Garrett Wilson. Ohio State is the new wide receiver U, and Garrett Wilson is right at the top of that class. So, yeah, I think that was the most significant thing last night, Aaron Rodgers singing the praises of Garrett Wilson.
He's always backed his teammates. He's always been a good supporter of his teammates in public. We'll see how quickly he can adjust. We saw in Green Bay with new receivers that it took a long time. And although Randall Cobb is there and Lazard and others, I wouldn't be surprised, and a great defense, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a slow start for the offense. But he's so efficient. I think you're right. Wilson will be great because Rodgers is in total control.
See, I would normally say that it would be a slow start to the offense, but having Nathaniel Hackett there and already knowing that system, I really don't think it's going to be slow. I think that the Jets, I have them conservatively at 11 wins with their win total at 9.5. I think they're going to be really good. And although this low ankle sprain kind of does inhibit their relationship making time, I think that they're still going to be really, really good. And that connection is going to be something to watch.
11 wins seems like a lot, but I mean, 10, 11 is basically the same. But yeah, I would take the over on the Jets. So 11 seems like a lot. I mean, I guess I can't just get in my head that I'm saying that the Jets are going to win 11 games.
It's a big division. I mean, that AFC East is a tough division, and I respect all 4 teams. I think the Patriots are going to be much better this year. So that 11 wins is a tough one, Britt, in a very crowded AFC.
It was hard going through, and especially the Jets, and for the past, however many years, the Jets have just been the laughing stock. But I think with that defense helps them so much. And I know that all the other teams are good, but Sauce Gardner, getting him, he is a true shutdown.
Yeah, he might be the best cornerback in the league already. I think, if I'm not mistaken, though, I think Robert Salah only has 2 AFC East wins in his career. So, and yeah, Rodgers going to have to get it rolling right away.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting. I do have them still on the record, though, to beat the Bills in week 1. Spicy.
I think I like that, too.
See? We've been agreeing way too much. We need something spicy that we can argue about.
Where's Dak Prescott at?
Well, we're moving on to gambling, so let's see what you guys think about this. We have learned that 7 current and former athletes at Iowa and Iowa State were criminally charged with tampering with records and suspected of placing bets on their own games. ISU quarterback Hunter Deckers and former Iowa basketball player Aaron Eulis and 5 others are suspected of more than 5,000 wagers totaling more than $100,000 between January 2021 and May 2023. What are your thoughts? Do you feel that the gambling policy for the NCAA needs to change or improve? And how do you think they will handle this versus the NFL?
Well, without being an expert on the matter, clearly a problem here. Certainly a serious situation, eye-popping numbers, but can't think this is just Iowa and Iowa State. You have to assume this is happening all over the country. The same ease of use we all have with our sports books in a pocket on our phone is the same problem it is to be able to regulate. It's very, very difficult. This is a very complicated matter. And whatever the NCAA and the colleges are doing to educate their players and coaches, it's clearly not enough. We saw this on the NFL level, where players are getting suspended for not really comprehended or obeying the rules. And it's the same on the college side. You have to be as extremely diligent with education as you could be. You have to basically every single day repeat the fact that you cannot be doing this as a college student. You have to make sure that it's not about penalty and punishment here. It's about education and rooting this out.
Yeah, I think this is problematic right here, and this is kind of stuff that is suspension worthy. When you look at it, it's kind of like the ultimate low thing to do in sports is to bet on your teams or games associated with your teams. You really take away from the spirit of the game, and I look at that as crimes against the sport. Listen, this is what I would do basically around this week right here, when the president is talking to the team, when fall camp starts, and the president and the AD comes. When I'm the head coach, I tell everybody that the day one, when you come into the building, when fall camp starts, don't even put the apps on your phone. Don't even give yourself an opportunity or a chance to go out there and make mistakes. If I'm on the collegiate level, I would ban it all together, because in 2018, when this rule was reversed, everybody said, yeah, the professional athletes got plenty of money, but you got to be careful with college sports, and we're seeing a lot of it in college sports.
Yeah, and the thing is, these kids clearly knew what they were doing was wrong. Blom placed his wagers using his own mother's identity, and it was so bad that she was the one who turned him in. She turned in her own son for gambling. He was underage and still managed to place 170 wagers. So not only is it a bad look for the sport, but Matt, like you brought up, it raises question about the integrity of betting apps and how well they vet their users' identity. I think Iowa's coach hit the nail on the head with his comments at Big Ten Media Days. The NCAA needs a cohesive and clear gambling policy, and schools need to educate their players on the implications of these actions. These kids are not only going to never play college ball ever again, but they've basically ruined their entire career and future. This is the world we live in where gambling is prevalent. It is on our phones. It's easily accessible, but we can't throw these kids to the wolves when their frontal lobes aren't even completely developed. It's our duty as adults to educate them. And that's something that the NCAA is falling very behind on.
The operators have a responsibility here as well. It's a very tough thing to regulate, but they clearly need to know the identity of the people that are making these wagers. And there's certainly enough money going on here that this is a problem you just have to solve. If I'm a CEO in the office, I'm saying, I don't want to hear the problem, solve the problem. And I'm walking out of the room. We cannot have this in our country if you're going to be able to have sports betting. And thankfully, there's no manipulation of the game here, at least evidence of that. But you can clearly see a scenario where a player would get way over his or her head and have only one way out, and that would be to adjust the game.
Do you think one player can adjust the game, though? See, that's where it gets tricky. Can one player adjust the game?
I think in basketball, it's a lot easier than football, but sure. I think,
but basketball, you can miss free throws, turn the ball over. In football, I think it would be tough. I think in football, the referee would have to be involved.
Anybody can take a holding penalty on any given play.
There you go. The holding penalty is the one right there.
Yeah, and Blom was the kicker. I think that has a big part to play in the fact that they said that the integrity of the games weren't compromised because he was the kicker. Like, how many opportunities is he actually going to get to throw the game? But it's still such a big problem.
But if the number is like 2.5 or 3, then the kicker can play. And listen, I think the bottom line of the matter is this. If you want to eliminate it from professional sports, you got to eliminate it from collegiate sports. So by the time they get to the pros, they already know the dangers of it.
Yeah, exactly. And there are certain apps, back to what Matt was saying about verifying users, there are certain apps that require you to send in a picture of your driver's license and then do like a 3-step verification through your email to verify that this is actually you and your identity. A lot of other sites don't. And that's something that they need to take into account as well, because we've already seen that certain states are now disallowing these sites to operate because they're saying that it is gambling, in fact. And then if they have any even more problems, that just feeds into all the detractors of sports betting, and it's never going to get regulated on a federal level if nobody can get on the same page here.
I need that federal regulation down here. So hopefully that does happen.
Mine's just a state regulation. So,
There are some protocols in place. You can't bet on college sports in New Jersey college sports in New Jersey, but clearly not enough is being done here. And this is not just about college. This is about professional and all. And if you say, well, you can't bet through your mother, now I'm going to bet through my roommate. And now I'm going to bet through a stranger. Right? This is about education and transparency more than it is trying to sort of police the system, because you're never going to be able to, they're always going to be one step ahead.
Somebody's going to be figuring out a way to get somebody to place a bet. Even when, going to the sports book in New York, the employees are not supposed to bet, but all of them got people betting for them, and they get the information, and they know what the sharps are playing. So yeah, it's going to be people.
The Yankees didn't impress in the MLB trade deadline. On Wednesday, Domingo Germán left the team to go to an alcohol treatment center and will not return this season. Anthony Rizzo is week to week with post-concussion symptoms. But somehow the Yankees earned their first win in a 4-game series against the AL wildcard contender, Houston Astros. How do you think the series will end, and where do you think the Bronx Bombers will end up at the end of the regular season? Corey, you're up first.
Yeah, it's just not looking. Listen, there's 50-something games left, and they're 2.5 out of that final wild card. But it don't feel like they need to be there because they're not playing up to that level. This team is not very good offensively. Oh, they beat the Astros in August. You're supposed to be, you got to beat the Astros in October. You know what I'm saying? The ones in August don't really count for nothing. Oh, this has not been good. You know what I'm saying? And always my thing has always been the New York Yankees are too big to fail. So they're going to fail this year. Then that sets them up for a big bounce back next year. But it doesn't look good right now. I think the Aaron Boone thing is not working. Now, you've had the same general manager for a quarter of a century. That's a long time for one guy to be doing a job, even though I don't think he's the problem. But it needs to be changes in the boogie down this offseason.
The Yankees are a dumpster fire. So I do think that the Astros will come away with this series. And it already does sound like the Yankees are giving up on their season from comments from their owner and GM. Severino, who they play tonight, has been god-awful this season. So Houston should be able to exploit his skill set. Then the loss of Herman and Rizzo, really not a good look. Can we talk about the optics of Rizzo having a concussion for 2 freaking months and no one noticing that he was off, that he was having problems? Herman showed up to the clubhouse and was scratched. And we were initially told it was because of an injury. Then it comes out that he's going to rehab. I mean, this Yankees team is in shambles. Overnight, despite their win, they went down from plus 114 to plus 130 to win the game tonight. And the loss last night wasn't a blowout. It was a 1-run win. The Astros are going to take this series.
I'm with Britt. I think it'll be a split or an Astros win. I don't think the Yankees will win this series. They're not going to see Cole. We are going to see Verlander on Saturday. I think we'll see Valdez on Sunday. The Astros have a far better lineup. Bullpen of the Yankee team is okay, but I think it'll either be a split or the Astros will win it. This Yankee team, it's not very good, but it's also very similar to last year, and I do think they'll squeak into the playoffs. They have Garrett Cole. Aaron Judge went on a historic run last year around this time of year in August and September. I would expect Judge to be able to carry this team into the playoffs. Not an easy feat. I don't think they'll do very well in the playoffs, but I think you will see this Yankee team in the wild card spot, and it's probably just good enough to not make wholesale changes next year, Corey. I know Yankee fans probably want to see a disaster, but I think it's just going to be good enough because Judge is too good.
Well, yeah, it would have to be back-to-back years of him carrying the team. But how much can this guy do? You know what I'm saying? Just carry this team season after season after season. So I think we're 2 seasons too long into Aaron Boone should be gone.
There is a time when a regime change is necessary. And I think that as sad as it is for the fans who are holding on to that emotional attachment, this is the time. It's kind of like Jerry Jones getting rid of Tom Landry, right? He was beloved. He was an icon. He helped them to several Super Bowls, but they had to move on to some new and innovative coaching. And that's why they brought in Jimmy Johnson. I think that the same situation is playing out with Aaron Boone right now. I mean, he's just been there too long. They haven't made enough good moves. The decisions and just the lack of composure and cohesiveness in the clubhouse is a really big problem. And we're finally starting to see it seep through the cracks into the media.
Final years of Tom Landry. I mean, don't get me wrong. I probably was too young to remember that. You know what I mean? But I can remember vaguely, but it wasn't good the final years of Tom Landry.
Well, this hasn't been good for the Yankees either. That's my point. Yeah. That's my point. It just sometimes you have to make a change. And as much as you want to hold on to the sentimentality of having that long tenured GM or coach or whoever it is, sometimes you've got to move on.
I mean, Corey, though, I think the general manager is a problem. The Yankees don't want to see Cashman go to another team, though. They know he's probably going to be successful where he goes. And the answer is, who do you hire if you let Brian Cashman go?
That's the thing.
If you look at the track record, it's not great recently. Things like moves like Josh Donaldson, signing veterans that haven't performed, Jameson Taillon last year, and not solving the left field problem. I think all Yankee fans knew coming out of last year they needed a left fielder, came into the season without one. And it's hard to replace a Cashman. He's got an impeccable record. He's probably going to be successful when he goes on to someone else. But I think a change has to be made at that level to be more impactful.
That's a major thing right there. Go ahead, Britt.
I was just going to say about Jameson Taillon, he had a horrible year last year with the Yankees, and now he's done pretty decently with the Cubs. So then you start to wonder, was it him or was it something different? And I think that that's something that we need to look in closer to as well.
It's that stadium. It's that stadium. That stadium is not where they should be playing at.
I have no idea. I've never been.
Never been to Yankee Stadium?
No, I do not go coastal. I might go
come on,
coastal,
don't
but
do
not
that.
coastal.
The new Yankee Stadium doesn't have the mystique and awe that Kurt
Yeah.
Schilling was talking about back in the day. It doesn't have that Bronx growl. It
Yeah.
doesn't have the acoustics. It's just not the same, and I do think that does play a factor with the teams in certainly that old Yankee Stadium, a very difficult place to play in October,
especially in the postseason. The joint was a little bit, it was very tough. Right now, it's like you're going to a hotel. It's like you're visiting the Statue of Liberty or something. It's like a tourist attraction.
Rival Fantasy is the all-in-one fantasy sports platform. Play challenges, Fantasybook, Fantasy Bingo, plus season-long fantasy football. New users who sign up at Rival Fantasy get up to a $200 match deposit and a complimentary first play voucher. Go to joinrival.com/alarm. We're going to showcase the fantasy book game. Britt, let's show everyone how the game works and who you're picking for today's MLB action.
Yeah, I think there are some good ones on here. If we've got this up, perfect. Make sure that nobody can see my notes and my cheat sheet. So first off, Freddie Freeman, I'm looking at him at 9.51 points. And for those of you who don't know how this works, you can pick between 2 to 5 players. You put them in your lineup and you select the over-under on their stat line. So for example, today Freddie Freeman is at 9.51 points. You can select the little I button. It shows you his fantasy points per game average, his position rank, his projected points. And then it gives you this nice little situation over here where it shows where he's landed over the past few games. Has he gone over or under? Which is very helpful, makes your research super easy to do. But getting back to Freeman, I'm going to click on him and select him. Yu Darvish, who he's going up against tonight, has been good against the Dodgers this year. But the lone bright spot for LA has been Freddie Freeman. He's batting a 3.21 average on 27 at-bats against Darvish. He had a great night last night. Granted, it was against the A's, but he's been on fire. So I like the over on this very low fantasy points line. You can see that since I've only selected one, he's not going to show up there right at this moment. But once you make your second selection, they will both show up there, and you can select the over on Freddie Freeman. So going with Elly De La Cruz, yes, the Reds have kind of been in a slump lately, but I expect him to come out of it tonight against Patrick Corbin. Corbin's 5.07 ERA is less than inspiring, and the last time De La Cruz faced him, he literally batted 1,000 on 3 bats. So I think that De La Cruz is going to have another huge game. I'm going to take the over on him. Then we've got Quinn Priester down here. I did some dumpster diving, y'all. Well, he was there. He's not there anymore. Oh, wait, there he is. Okay. So Quinn Priester, Pittsburgh's starting pitcher, his line is at 10.94 fantasy points. You can see his actual and projected. It is not great, y'all. His ERA is 9.19. So even though this line is relatively low for a starting pitcher, he's A, going to struggle, and B, I don't think he's going to be in that long when he gives up that many runs. So I'm going to take the under on him, who scored against the Brewers, who scored 14 runs last night. 14. And I just hit over. Double check your bets. That's another good lesson. So next, to piggyback off that, I'm going to take Christian Yelich. And he is down here somewhere. I keep losing my place. There are too many good bets. So Christian Yelich, obviously going up against Priester. I think that it's a good stack at 8.6 fantasy points. He has only hit over his average fantasy points per game 5 out of the last 12, but several of those have been very close to the line. And against Priester, I think that this is a slam dunk. So I am going to go over on him. And then finally, to round out this bet, after all the Astros and Yankees talk, I'm going to take Kyle Tucker over 8.3 fantasy points when I find him again. Like I said, I went dumpster diving. And this is also a good opportunity to bring up the search function. If you can't find a player, you can type him into the search bar, and there he is. And you don't have to waste time scrolling like I just did. I'm going to take Tucker over 8.3 fantasy points. Like Yelich, he's only hit over his average in 5 out of the last 12. But the matchup against Severino is just too good to pass up tonight. So now that we've got our bet in there, it multiplies by 10 times. So I'm just going to put $5 on this to win 50. Made all my selections, double checked again, and scroll down. Well, there we go. And then you just hit submit. Okay, well, I'll make this bet after the show. It says that I need to deposit money. So, so I don't know what is going on there, but you guys see how it works. It's a really fun, easy game to play, and stacking these parlays and going up against, pitchers versus hitters is a really fun way to just bet on what you think the outcome is going to be. So I think that covers it. Did I miss anything, y'all?
Got some good picks in here. You really dove deep. I play in 9 fantasy leagues. I've never heard of Quinn Priester, so you're outworking me. The answer is always Freddie Freeman. Excellent pick there, and I was happy to see you put an Astro in there after we destroyed Luis Severino. Smart move putting a lefty in there. Tucker should have a big night tonight.
And then the single user or the single player fantasy games, like if you've been intimidated by the DFS space before, this is a good way to get in there and not get your head kicked in by sharps. It's kind of like a old school playing against the computer style in the video game. So it's definitely less intimidating than where DFS has come from.
And they give you all the tools that you need. They give you all the research right there. I mean,
do you think that's a good idea? Because just you do the research yourself, right? You know what I'm saying?
But I love that it makes it easy. It makes it easy for people to play who haven't necessarily played these types of games before. I love it.
Yeah, you got to try to bring more people into the pool, show people how informed they can be rather than trying to find a million different stats. It's right there. It's very easy to be able to see a line that the player hit in the last 5 games. And Corey, I do think we need to bring more people in and make it simple for them to enjoy the game even more.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, let's go. Ellie De La Cruz should be a big one in the Natty tonight on a Friday night, chasing the playoffs, and one of the most electric players in the game. And in the end, okay to just bet for the players you like. They place support around the players that you like and root for them. I mean, it's not about how much money you're making. It's about having more fun with the games and giving yourself a little bit more interest there. So you like Ellie De La Cruz? Let's go.
Definitely a lot of entertainment options right now.
I think you can't bet against De La Cruz. That's the situation. I mean, even with the Reds struggling, he's still the bright spot. He is the future of this team.
Thank you, Britt, for doing Fantasybook. You did a great job, and I took some notes myself. So I'm going to put some money on my Fantasybook tonight. That was today's edition of A Bettor Morning. Thank you to Corey, Britt, and Matt. Make sure you check out Getting Buzzed with Howard Bender at noon Eastern, Fantasy Fiasco with Andrew Cooper at 1 p.m., and at 2 p.m., Britt's Fantasy Blitz. And if you missed any of our shows, you can find them all on our YouTube channel and at bettorsports.com. We wish everyone a better weekend.